And let me start by handing over the floor to Jaffer Machano, who is the Global Program Manager for Municipal Investment Finance at the United Nations Capital Development Fund. Before UNCDF, he was the head of global banking in Tanzania at the Standard Chartered Bank. He holds a master's degree in international economic policy from Columbia University. I should also caveat, I have shortened many of these very illustrious CVs, but I welcome all the listeners to the webinar to very much look up all our esteemed panelists who have very fruitful and illustrious careers, both not only behind them, but I'm sure in front of them as well. So Jaffer, let me hand over to you to provide for us, please, a framing presentation that can help us understand the link between sort of the decentralization challenge as well as financing and funding for urban development. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Astrid. And thank you especially for the organizers. This has been a very good series of different webinars to discuss this issue. And I appreciate to being invited as a panelist together with my fellow colleagues on the panel today. So for me, what I always, when I look at this problem of urbanizing and ability to invest, I tend to frame it in two buckets. One is the political sphere of local governance versus the ability to invest in local governance. So we saw quite a bit of push starting the 90s after the deregulation and the World Bank and IMF and others, even the organization that I work for, the United Nations, there had been a lot of push to bring the self-governing to the local government. So a lot of now we know mayors are elected, we have a lot of councillors compared to what we had in the 70s in the region. But the investment on the public infrastructure for service delivery is lagging behind. So there's this juxtaposition that people in the localities tend to get quite disappointed. You elect somebody and then that person does not have the ability to deliver most of what is really needed. And I think this is true for many African cities today, that I'm sure others will talk more about it. Cities are growing and at a very fast pace, but the level of urban poverty is increasing and the service delivery is not able to match to what's on the ground. From lines of traffic to power cuts to water that is not capable to storm drainages when it rains, you name it. So for me, this is one bucket that is the reality on the ground. The second one is the question of why financing doesn't go to the local governments within, especially for Africa, but to some extent, some countries within Southeast Asia. And in the area of finance, our internal research has shown three main buckets. And I know there's a lot more, and please let's discuss it. And these three main areas are: one is capacity within the local governments. And when I say capacity, I mean from people's capacity in order to plan and bring infrastructure to level of being delivery ready, to credit quality of many balance sheets of the municipalities, to the ability of municipality to execute program, because this also in other countries, you know, the engineering team is actually with the Ministry of Works and that kind of stuff. The second one is regulation, and regulation plays in both levels. At the central government level, because truth be told, quite a few of Ministry of Finances, they see this as a zero-sum game. So if city ABC gets more money, it becomes part of the national debt, and it reduces the capacity for the ministry as a national government to borrow. Whether that is true or not, I think it's still a point of debate, but it has clouded quite a bit of reforms within the financial sector in many different countries. And at the local government, there's also limits on how local governments can borrow. And in some countries, these limits are so stringent that that capacity is not accessible for infrastructure. Yes, municipals can have overdraft and bank accounts and that kind of stuff, but it doesn't allow a rollout of substantive investment and a rollout of infrastructure. And the third part on the capital side is what I think the risk perception of local government is too high. Even with the problems that I've mentioned, there's a lot of success that can be cited. And therefore, a lot of pension funds, especially, and insurance funds money locally do not fund the real sector in the infrastructure. So it's much easier to buy a treasury bond or a bill compared to a municipal bond that actually will fund a road. And I would like to stop there. Thank you, Astrid.